Friends, Women Adventure Church, we're so glad that you could be here with us this morning. We're going to start by singing a couple of songs. I invite you to stand and sing with us. The song is this reminder that there's hope for all through Jesus by what he's done on the cross. We all can have hope of new life here on earth and for eternity. Son of God, born to breath of all mankind, you began. Your promises are written in creation. Everywhere I look, I see your plan. Even the rocks cry out, so I'll cry out. Heaven and earth will sing, so I'll sing. work all things out together for your good. Pray this morning that you'd help us to grow close to you, that we hear from you this morning. Hear me pray. You guys can grab a seat.
I felt nervous going into Alpha. I was really never asked to be a part of anything formal with the church, so it was really a new experience for me to come in.
I was a little bit apprehensive.
I felt nervous going into Alpha. I was really never asked to be a part of anything formal with the church, so it was really a new experience for me to come in.
I was a little bit apprehensive going into Alpha. I don't really have much of a problem talking to people and meeting new people, but it is a little bit weird going into the church for this new thing, so I was a little nervous.
So I had expectations for what like a Bible study would be like, and that's what I thought it would be like because I've gone to a lot of different Bible studies and church groups. So I wasn't nervous at all. I was actually just, my expectations were like it was going to be like everything else I've ever been to, and it was not.
The highlight of my experience as a participant of it was probably realizing, it was the camaraderie that you build with your group.
Community, getting together with different people, learning who they were, learning about what they thought, and just the relationships that were made.
Just coming together with a group of people for a common goal, whether it be to love or to worship, and it was just kind of an uplifting experience to be around other people like that and just celebrate God.
The difference that Alpha has made in my life is it made Jesus more approachable for me, and made prayer not seem more like a chore.
Having grown up in a more traditional church, Alpha kind of brought me to a place where I could look at things with a different perspective with other people.
Surprisingly to myself, I learned how to hear God and how to invite the Holy Spirit into my life. It was amazing.
It took me a while, but I'm more comfortable talking with people about the Bible and about Jesus and not just schlumping away when people have discussions about that kind of stuff.
If you're thinking about Alpha, I definitely recommend it.
If it's crossed your mind to give Alpha a try, try it.
If you're thinking about trying Alpha for the first time, you have nothing to lose, everything to gain, you should go for it.
Good morning and welcome to Venture. My name is Braden. I'm the pastor here. If we haven't had a chance to meet before, I'd love to just introduce myself to you personally. Wanted to just let you know about a few things that are coming up here in the weeks ahead. First of all, if this is your first time or if you've just been checking things out, welcome. We hope you have a great experience. If you want to fill out one of our guest cards, there's some at the Welcome Center, or you can do it online. You can scan one of the QR codes in the back, or just go to our website. It's ven.church. It's a simple website, and you can fill out our guest card just to let us know you were here. It's a way for you to introduce yourself to us, and we have a gift for you just to say thanks for coming and checking things out. And also, if you want to learn a little bit more about Venture, next Sunday after service, we're doing a Discover Venture lunch. It'll just be right after our second service around noon. And it's just a chance for you to interact with some of our team, ask some questions, get to know us and our heartbeat. And we'd love to have you there. If you turn in a guest card this week, or if you've turned in one recently, you'll get an invitation to that. But you can also sign up for that on our website as well if you want to participate in that. Just let us know you're coming so we make sure we got food for you and stuff like that. there are several things that are coming up, and I just want to let you know all of what we do here is 100% funded by your donations and your generosity. And we are grateful for that. Whether you are considering giving for the first time, whether you've given maybe once or twice, but you're considering moving towards consistent giving, or you're making the move towards generosity on a consistent basis, what you do matters, and it makes everything that we do happen. And some of the things that are coming up here are all because of your generosity. So we just want to thank you for that. You can give online on our website. There are boxes in the back for cash or check as well. So thank you for doing that and partnering with us in our mission as well. So just a few things to let you know that are coming up. First off, we have set a date, and we just want you to have the date on hand so that you can mark it on your calendars for later this summer. But as we wrap up our first year as Venture Church, we are going to go away to camp together. And I don't know if that sounds like a wild idea to you or a great idea, but we want to get away as a church. We're going to shut things down here over the weekend, and then we're going to take some time just to enjoy relationships together, to really grow closer together, and just unplug from it all as we do that. So that's the weekend of August 17th and 18th. There are going to be some instructions for how you can sign up. You can go for one night, you can go for 3 nights, you can kind of go at your own pace, but that's at Tall Oaks Camp up in Baldwin. It's going to be affordable for the whole family. It's going to be fun. And there's like RV sites, campsites, bunk houses, all kinds of different options. We'll let you know, but I just want you to have the save date. We're looking forward to our first ever venture camp, and we'll let you know how to sign up for that as well. And also, you just saw this video for the Alpha course. We've been running Alpha here for a few years now, and I think most people that have gone through Alpha have found it to be a really meaningful, if not life-changing experience for them. And we have been dreaming for several years saying, how do we get Alpha out of our own building? And how do we get it in a place that's a little more approachable for our community, centrally located so people can come from all around the city? And we have secured a location right downtown. If you know where Aldea Coffee is on Pine Street, the basement of that building, we're going to be hosting Alpha there. It's going to start on Wednesday, April 17th, 6:30 p.m. It starts with a meal. There's a talk. And then there's some group discussion afterwards. If you've never been through Alpha, we would love to have you check it out. You can come to the first weekend, and if it's not your thing, just don't come back, and we're not going to hound you or anything like that. But I also let you know that if you have been to Alpha, we are sort of dreaming bigger than we ever have and sort of taking some risks, and we would love to have you help on one of our teams through that. The first thing that makes Alpha work is our prayer team. And if you're considering trying Alpha, know that you are already being prayed for by that team. But we would love to have you sign up to be part of our prayer team. Every week of Alpha is fueled by the prayers of people behind the scenes. The second is we have an opportunity to have a team that will set up and tear down each week, make sure that it's a good experience for our guests on Alpha. Every week there's a meal that's provided, and we have a team of people that make sure that to host that meal. It's always sort of above and beyond what people would normally get. And so if you would like to be part of that meal team, let us know as well. And then there's the team that actually facilitates Alpha or hosts Alpha with the groups and the discussions and stuff like that. We would love to have you serve on one of those teams if you've been through Alpha. And the last thing is be inviting friends, family, and other things to Alpha as well. So we have a few things coming up. We're in a sort of the busy season of our church as we look towards Easter. Good Friday is going to be here on March 29th, 7 p.m. service. It'll be an hour or a little less than an hour. We're combining with Restore Church and Journey. Everybody's coming to here for that service. We'd love to see you on Good Friday, as the truth is Easter doesn't happen without Good Friday. And it's a great reminder for us of what it cost Jesus and the way that we can be grateful to him as well. And then on Easter Sunday, we have our normal 2 services. After our second service, we're going to have some fun for the kids with an extravaganza and egg hunt and stuff like that. So when there'll be a photo booth on Easter, you can get dressed up with the family and take some pictures. But in order to make that happen, we're collecting candy donations for the next couple weeks. Next Sunday, right after church, we're going to get out the tables, and we're going to stuff as many eggs as possible, hundreds of thousands or whatever that works out. So donate some candy over the next couple weeks. Stay afterwards to help us stuff those eggs after church as well. So there's a little intermission time right now. You can go grab a cup of coffee. You can chat with a friend. The kids are hanging out in service today. There's some activity stuff that they can check out if they want that at the Venture Kids areas as well. So 3 minutes. I'll be right back up here. If you ever wondered why it cut out at 9 seconds every week, it's because of that glitch right there. When we stop it, when we do the full countdown, it just likes repeating itself. So several years ago, when I was still in school and I was dating my wife, we went to pick up her grandpa from the Catholic church that he was attending from Sunday morning service. And we get out of the car, and he was a little older, so I got out of the car to help him and stuff like that. And he introduces me to his friend that he had been talking to, a young man. As I listened, it was clear that he had some special needs of some capacity, but he just introduced me, and he looks at this young man, and he goes, "I want you to meet Braden. He's studying to be a priest." And I'm like, well, that's not quite true, and I'm not sure the person I'm dating is going to really appreciate the way you put that in context. But this young man, he just looks at me, and I don't know what your response would be to meeting somebody that was going to be a priest someday, but just eagerly, he looks at me and he goes, "Bless me, Father." And I'm like, what am I supposed to say to this? I'm not a priest. I'm not going to be a priest. I don't really practice blessing people too often, at least formally or whatever. So I didn't know what to say in the moment, and all I could just sort of stutter out was, "I forgot my oil." Like, I don't know why that's what came out of my mind, but I think we all maybe have some instances in our lives where maybe the opportunity to talk about our faith comes out sort of awkwardly like that, or like, I don't even know what to say. And this morning, Matt is going to share with us, how do we talk to God, people about God? Like, how do we do it without coming off as awkward or weird? It doesn't have to be that way in any circumstance, but sometimes we kind of get stuck up like, what's the right thing to say? What would God want me to say? What would my pastor want me to say? Anything like that. The truth is, we just have to be ourselves and just share some of our own stories and share what God has been doing in our own lives. We are wrapping up this series that we've been calling The Way to Share Your Faith. It's been a collaborative series between Restore Church and Norton Shores Journey Church in Fruitport and us Venture up here on the north side of Muskegon. And I know that some of you have wondered about like the video series thing, and it's the way that we can have multiple people in multiple locations. A couple weeks ago, I spoke at both Journey and Venture because of technology. Today, Matt is speaking at 3 places at once, so he's especially talented at that. But you wonder why we're doing this, and here's the thing. Over 20 years ago, there was a group of people here in town that were building relationships with people that wanted to take steps with God, wanted to grow in their faith, but they didn't feel like they fit in any other church in town, that based on maybe their background, based on maybe their what they looked like, maybe based on some of the things that they're into. They're like, I wouldn't belong in any of these other churches, just feel like an outsider. And so this church called The Journey was born more than 2 decades ago, saying, how do we reach people? How do we create a place where people, no matter what their background is, no matter what they think other people are going to think of them, they will be welcomed to explore and take steps with Jesus and maybe hear the love and grace of Jesus. And now, 2 decades later, that one church has grown into 3 churches in our community that continue to hear and see God work in ways in people's lives, for people that say, I didn't know if I would be rejected or judged or whatever, and I found a place where I was welcomed and I was loved and I was greeted into kind of this place, this community where I can explore and take steps. And we want to continue that. If you're wondering what Venture is going to be about, if you wonder what Journey or Restore is about, we're all about being a place where people that might feel like they're outsiders in other places can be seen just as they are and be encouraged to take steps to explore this good news of Jesus that's good news for all people. And so we wanted to get together as a collaboration and share these stories and share steps with all of our communities that we can take to encourage conversations with our friends about who Jesus is. So check out Matt's talk.
Hey everyone, I'm Matt. I'm pastor at Journey Church, and I'm so glad to be with you as part of this series. And as we begin today, I got a question for you. What do you like to talk about? What do you like to talk about? Do you find yourself maybe just talking about maybe the game last night, or the weather, or the show you're binge watching? But you know, that's kind of surface stuff. Like, what do you actually like to talk about? If you're hanging around with some of your close friends, or the neighbor you've known for a long time, or your office friends where you're like, you always eat lunch with them or whatever, like, what do you like to talk about? For me, I like to talk about food. No surprise there, right? You probably tell by looking at me. But I love food. I love to cook food. I like to go out to eat. A lot of people ask me about restaurant recommendations or what they should get at a restaurant because they know I love food and I like to talk about food. One of the other things I like to talk about is the NBA. I love basketball. But you know what? I find a lot of people are willing to talk about food, but when it comes to basketball, like, they're just not that interested. I'll be like, hey, did you see the game last night? And they'll be like, no, I didn't. Or I'll be like, hey, what do you think about what? I don't really watch basketball. I don't really know. Or they may like, I like basketball, but I just don't pay much attention to it. And so I have a harder time. I have only a couple friends that really like basketball like I do. And I have this one guy, I don't even talk to him that often. Our life doesn't cross paths as much as it used to. But I get like random texts from him and be like, hey, did you see that? I'll be like, yeah. And so like when we're together, we always talk about basketball, and he's someone who understands it like I do, and so it's kind of fun to talk about it like that with him. You know, but what do you like to talk about? That's the question. I'm gonna just go out on a limb and say, you weren't thinking about, I love to talk to other people about God. Was that one of the things that you thought of? Maybe we're in church right now and you're thinking, I should have said that. That would have been the right answer to say. But you didn't have to share your answer out loud or anything like that. So you don't have to feel guilty if it wasn't or anything like that. And I'm guessing the reality is that that's probably not one of your favorite things to talk about, because talking about God can feel awkward. You can feel like I don't have all the answers, so I feel kind of ashamed. You can maybe have these feelings of, they're going to be mad at me. Is this going to go well? So I know when it comes to talking about God or sharing our faith, it can be challenging. It might feel a little bit more like talking about the NBA, like I was talking about earlier, where people just seem to maybe be disinterested, or they just don't know much about that. And so maybe the conversations don't go that well. Or maybe we just don't know what to say. But how do we share our faith? You know, this is what we're talking about in this series, the ways to share our faith, to talk about God. And when it comes to that, I think we know the ways to not do it. Maybe we've had bad experiences with this in the past, of maybe someone yelling on the street corner, or maybe someone coming at it from a very judgmental approach, or maybe even someone just talking in big religious terms that people don't really understand. And so we kind of see some examples of how not to share our faith, but some other ways would be this too, of not talking about it, ignoring opportunities that we have, or being more worried about what someone would think about us opposed to their eternal salvation. Like, that's not good either. So we're called to share our faith and to talk about it. In fact, we see this in 1 Peter chapter 3. It says this. It says, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give a reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. Be prepared to give an answer. Now, I like this verse because it doesn't say, be prepared to have all the answers. It doesn't say that at all. It says, be prepared to give an answer for why you have this hope. What is your reason for having this hope in Jesus? And so you don't have to have all the answers, but we should be prepared to share why we have this hope. And it says, do it with gentleness and respect. You know, what I have found is that people are willing to talk about anything if we do it with gentleness and respect, whether that's God or something else. If we are willing to not be a jerk, not be judgmental, not be argumentative, if we're willing to listen to others, to respect them and their opinions, if we're willing to not be pushy or weird, but to do it with gentleness, that people are open to having a conversation. It might not be a long conversation. It might even be one where they just say, I'm disinterested, but at least they're open to hearing it for a moment. You know, what if we could get to this point where sharing our faith wasn't something intimidating, where it wasn't something scary, where it was part of our normal conversation, where it didn't have to feel weird, we didn't have to worry about it, but it could be something that we could do just like we would talk about the weather or the game last night. I think we can get there. There are ways that we can share our faith that can seem natural and easy. We get some examples of this in the book of Acts chapter 8. We're going to look at a story about Philip who shared his faith, and it can give us maybe some ideas of how we can share our faith in a way that can seem normal and effective. Acts chapter 8, verse 26, we begin. It says this, Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, Go south to the road, the desert road, and go down from Jerusalem to Gaza. So he started out, and on his way he met an Ethiopian eunuch, then an important official in charge of all the treasury. And this man had gone to Jerusalem to worship, and he was on his way home, sitting in his chariot, reading the book of Isaiah the prophet. The Spirit told Philip, Go to the chariot and stand near it. So Philip ran up to the chariot, and he heard a man reading Isaiah the prophet. Do you understand what you're reading? Philip asked. Well, how can I, he said, unless someone explains it to me. So he invited Philip to come up and sit with him. And in this passage of Scripture, the eunuch was reading, he'll be led like a sheep to the slaughter, and a lamb before the shearer is silent. So he did not open his mouth. In his humility, he was deprived of justice. Who can speak of his descendants? For his life will be taken from this earth. So that was the passage he was reading. Then it continues. It says, the eunuch asked Philip, tell me, please, what is this prophet talking about? Himself or someone else? And then Philip began with that very passage of Scripture and told him the good news about Jesus. And as they traveled along the road, they came with some water, and the eunuch said, look, here's some water. What is standing in the way of me being baptized? And he gave the order to stop the chariot, and both Philip and the eunuch went down into the water, and Philip baptized him. Now here we see a very interesting story about Philip. And there's a couple things I think we can take from this story and his experience that can maybe inspire us to maybe do something meaningful, like share our faith. Here we see in the story that Philip was able to give him the same hope that he's experienced. He shared this good news with Jesus, and this guy ended up wanting to be baptized. Man, he made a big impact on this guy's life, and there's no reason why you can't make a big impact on your friends' lives either. And so let's take some maybe ideas from Philip. The first thing is that Philip made himself available to do this. We see that God kind of spoke to him and led him, but he was available. Like, what if we were to make ourselves available to take this step to share our faith? Like, what if we were going to make ourselves available? For some of us, conversations like this aren't even on our radar. We're not even thinking about them. But what if we were to make ourselves available? How would we do that? That means we would be looking for opportunities, that we'd be listening to God's Spirit, that we would be maybe praying for opportunities. I believe this. If you would pray, God, give me an opportunity to talk to someone about my faith today. If you were to pray that consistently, that you'll begin to see those opportunities. And just like Philip, you might feel God leading you to share those and make a big difference in someone else's life, that they might find faith. So with Philip, it happened in the sense of God was speaking to him. It said the angel of the Lord said to Philip, and then it said his spirit spoke to him. And I don't know if those were audible words or not. I know, like, for me, my experience with feeling God leading me to do something, it usually isn't an audible word. It's maybe just some words in my mind. It might be kind of a nudge that we might feel like, in a sense of, you should take that step, or just this sense that you just kind of feel. And so I think too, if we're looking for those opportunities, if we make ourselves available, if we're praying about that you could maybe have that same experience where God points someone in your direction and you have the opportunity to speak life into that relationship and to share just like Philip did. But we have to make ourselves available to do that. One of the things that I used to do before I worked at a church, when I had other jobs, is I would read my Bible on my lunch break. There was this one job where we had like a kind of our break room area was just kind of the back of the shop. So it wasn't closed off or anything. You were just kind of still in the shop, and there'd sometimes be people working around you, and a lot of times you took your lunch break on shifts, and so sometimes you'd be by yourself, or someone would come in kind of halfway through your lunch break or things like that. And so, like, if I was by myself, I'd be reading my Bible, and sometimes people would come in and sit down next to me and start eating their lunch. And I just remember this one time, this guy was like, "What are you reading?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm reading my Bible." And this led to this conversation, and he was just saying, like, "Yeah, I don't think I could ever go to church. I've done too much, and I'm sure God is so mad at me." And just being able to share with him, like, there's always a second chance with God, that God loves you unconditionally. And like, the conversation didn't go a lot past that because he didn't really want it to. And I've had other opportunities when I was working there to talk with him about it, and I can't say that I was able to baptize him or anything like that like Philip did, but I know I was able to share my faith with him, plant some of those seeds, and who knows what God will do with that. So would you make yourself available like Philip did? That's one way. The other thing we see from Philip in here is that he shared with him the good news about Jesus. He was asking about this obscure passage in Isaiah, and Philip was able to point him towards Jesus as it was talking about him. But I think for our experience like this too is oftentimes we feel like I don't have all the answers. And again, that brings us back to where we begin with that 1 Peter chapter 3. It talks about giving a reason for your hope. To be prepared to give an answer, not be prepared to have all the answers. Like, we're not going to have all the answers. But what we can do is point people towards Jesus, just like Philip did with the eunuch. You know, people might ask you an obscure religious question. Well, what about this in the Bible? Or I heard someone say this one time, and there's no reason why you can't say, well, you know, I don't know about that, or I'm not sure about that, but here's one thing I do know, and point them towards Jesus. So how do we talk about Jesus? How do we point people towards Jesus? How do we give a reason? How are we prepared to give a reason for the hope that we have? And again, we don't have to have all the answers, but what if we just had a few thoughts that could help guide us in these conversations that we want to have in order to share our faith? I think if you answered these two questions, what do I know or what have I learned about God? And then what have I seen or experienced? Like, what do I know or learned about God? What have I seen or experienced? If you were just willing to think through those ahead of time so you are prepared, like that verse said in 1 Peter, if you were to think through those ahead of time and have a few thoughts or a few sentences written out so we can prepare ourselves, I think that could come a long way and allowing us to be in a conversation where talking about God doesn't feel weird, where it can be a normal part of our conversation. Like, maybe just think about this. Like, what do you know about God? Maybe something that is really important or dear to you. Maybe it's something like that God is merciful, like he forgives us. He always gives us second chances. Or maybe it's the love of Jesus is unconditional. It's for anyone and everyone. Or maybe it's something like God promises to be our peace and our hope in the middle of the struggle and hard situations. Maybe those are some things that are near and dear to your heart. And those are things that we could say, if someone says, well, what about this? And they might have some obscure thing that they ask a question about when it comes to church or God. You can say, I'm not so sure about this, but here's one thing I do know, is that God's love for me is unconditional, and he's forgiven me, and I can have hope. And just leave it at that. Again, we don't have to share everything we know. We don't have to have all of the answers. It's just giving a reason for why we have the hope that we have. Maybe another example of what have you seen or experienced? And maybe for you, it's maybe what you've experienced is God is in the middle of stress, he brings you peace. Or maybe it's he's helped maybe guide you as a parent. Or maybe he's helped restore your marriage. Or maybe some other experience. Like, what have you experienced? What have you seen? Or how has God changed your life? Like, how could you talk about that with someone? You know, I think this is a great way to work this into conversations where it doesn't feel weird. It can just be a normal part. Someone might be talking to you about being stressed out or just feeling anxious about things, and you could say to them, you know, like, one of the things that I do when I feel anxious is I pray and I just ask God to be my peace. Or you could say, here's this verse, and I read this verse as a reminder that God's with me through the struggle. Again, you don't have to have a long conversation about it. You don't have to expound upon it if you don't want to, or if they don't want you to, but it's just a way to talk about God and to share your faith in normal conversation. You could even say something like, I know maybe you've never heard this before, or you might think this is a little weird, but one of the things I do is I pray, or I read this Bible verse. You can even say that, and it helps break down some of the walls by saying, like, this might be a little different. Or maybe it's like someone's talking about their kids and feeling like their kids are just going in the wrong direction, or they're just kind of worried about their kids. And maybe one thing you could say is, you know, I definitely get that. And one of the things that's helped me as a parent is I use these resources we have at church to have meaningful conversations with my kids. And it gives you these prompts to do at like bedtime or bath time or dinner time. And it allows me to have these meaningful conversations about important stuff, about like kindness, and it's helped me kind of guide my kids in the right direction. Or maybe someone's talking about struggles in their marriage or complaining about their spouse, and maybe you could say something like, you know, one thing that I've done is that is that I began to pray with my spouse. And it feels like it's brought us closer together, because every night before we go to bed, we just pray for each other, and it just feels like we each have our best in mind for the other person, and it's really helped our marriage. Again, I don't know what you've seen or experienced or what is important for you, but maybe just taking a little bit to think through that and to answer that question. Because if we're willing to answer those two questions, that can help us be prepared to give a reason for why we have the hope that we do with Jesus. It can help us talk about it with others and to share our faith in a way where it doesn't seem weird or pushy, where it's just part of normal conversation. And again, you don't have to have all the answers. It's just pointing people towards Jesus is a great place to begin. So what about you? What I'd like you to do right now is to take a minute and maybe pull out your phone and pull out the Notes app, or pull out a piece of paper and maybe just start to brainstorm a couple thoughts along those two questions. What have you seen or experienced? What do you know about God? Or what have you learned? What is dear to you about God? Just write down a few thoughts about that right now. I'm going to give you just a few minutes to do that.
Just going to wrap up just a second by praying over us this morning. But contrary to what you might think, most people in our country statistically are open to spiritual conversations. And I think a lot of times they just don't even know who to go to and who to talk to about them. If I had to summarize this 3-week series about how to share your faith in just a couple sentences, I would say it comes down to something like this. One, God has already put the people in your life that he wants you to share your faith with. You don't have to go trying to chase strangers down on the street or anything like that. There are already people at school, in your workplace, in your neighborhood, in your family that God wants you to be sharing your faith with. The second is it's just about being open and available to God, saying, God, who do you want me to share with, and how do you want that to be, and being open when the opportunity comes. And the third piece is having the courage to take a step. And even if it's something you're not like a professional at, you don't have all the answers like Matt talked about, just say, here's what I know about God, and here's what I've experienced about him. It does not have to be that complicated. Think about the relationships you already have. Be open to God's leading and take a step of courage when the opportunity comes. There's 3 ways that I think this could play out in your life in the weeks ahead. One is we want you living life in relationship with other people. We do that through venture groups. We have some groups that have been going for a while, some that are just starting to get off the ground, and some that are trying to figure out how to get going. And if you want to be part of a group, it's a way for you to share some of the stories about how this is working out in your own life. We would love to help you get connected in a group as well. The second is Easter's coming up, and Easter's an easy invite opportunity where most people would be open to an invitation to check out church on Easter. So think about some people in your life that you can invite to our Easter services coming up. And the third is Alpha is such an easy invite. It's a laid-back environment. Invite somebody to come along with you at Alpha. If you've been through it, say, hey, I'll do it again if you would go with me. So invite somebody as well. Those are easy ways for you to begin a conversation about faith in your own life. So just want to pray for us. The band will come up in just a minute to wrap up our morning with some music. God, we thank you for what you've been doing over the years, starting with the journey some 20 years ago, and now this collaboration involves Restore and Venture and churches that we haven't even dreamed up yet for the future, God. We want to be the kind of community that's outward focused, that thinks about how we can share the hope that we have found in Jesus, not just in our own communities, but to the people in our lives, even the ones that might seem the farthest away from you. God, there is no one that is too messed up, too broken, too far from you that you can't rescue. And in fact, the good news is you have come for all of us. God, would you help us have the courage to step into those relationships and begin the conversation and share our hope with others. It's the hope of the whole world forever. God, we love you. We thank you for who you are. Amen.
We're going to have, I sing a couple songs. I want to stand. I want you to stand and sing with us. So this month we've also been looking at the music and why we sing and how we sing and what we sing. And we talked about why we sing, and that's to worship God and to glorify Him and to focus our hearts. And because singing changes us, we've talked about what we sing, which is Bible-centered, Christ-glorifying songs. And some of them are songs of joy, and other songs are kind of internally focused on who we are and who we want to become. And, for a second, before we start, I just want to talk about how we sing. So you might be like, why do we always stand up? Well, the reason we stand up, there isn't anything significant except for the fact that the best way to sing with your diaphragm is to actually be standing up. It's kind of hard to sing sitting down. So that's why we always ask you to stand up. But you can always feel free to sit down if that's what you prefer or you have trouble standing. So you could sing out loud or you could sing just in your heart. I mean, God hears both of those things. We believe that God knows our inner thoughts, and so if singing out loud isn't something that you like to do, I want to encourage you just to sort of sing the words inside your heart as you know them, or just meditate on them. But I personally think there's something special and beautiful about a group of people singing out loud the praises of God together. So I just want to encourage you guys to sing out loud, whether you consider yourself a singer or not. It doesn't really matter with all the music going on. Just your voices together, I think, makes such a beautiful, sweet sound to God. And last thing I was going to say about how we sing is once in a while you might see somebody with their arms up, or their hands up, or their hands out, and that might seem really weird, but just to make it a little less weird, all that is the person trying to show with their body, with their movements, that they want to be opened to Christ, what He has. Like, here's my life, God. It's sort of like a reverent thing to do. It might seem really weird to do that, but I guess I would want to encourage you to at some point, if there's a moment where you're really connecting with God, maybe put your hand up, put your hands out. I'm just saying, my arms are open wide for you, God, whatever you have. Like there's other ways, like people bow. There's other movements that we make that have significant meaning, and that's what that means. It's an act of surrender to God, being open to Him. So we're going to sing a couple songs. I invite you to sing with us as you feel led this morning. joining us this morning. Hope it was a meaningful time for you to see right here next Sunday at Adventure Church. Thanks, guys.